everybody. You are listening to the History Boys. I, as usual, am Christopher Whedon, and I'm a, big-time, old-timey history boy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is Tyler Armentrout. Unlike Christopher Whedon, I'm a new age history boy.
He's new school.
I only listen to synthesizers, and everything is #awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who do we have with us?
Oh, who is that?
Who is that? Who is that?
The prodigal son has returned. It is I, Zach Meck, and I am, and it will always be, a history boy.
You're goddamn right.
Zach, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Is Gary Newman nice in real life?
He's fucking amazing. Oh my god! Like, you talk about one of the most fucking cool, like, down to earth dudes ever. Like,
dope.
Yeah.
I've been following him on Instagram since your trip, and he's been posting a lot of things about the tour. And he does seem like a really genuinely cool, like, nice guy. Like, very grateful and like.
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool.
He's awesome. If you get a chance, follow his wife, Gemma Newman, or Gemma Webb, with 2 B's. She is a fucking riot. That woman.
Yeah.
Like, just
that's fantastic.
The shit that comes out of her mouth is amazing. That
makes me very happy.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really confusing, though, I've been following Gary Newman's social media feeds as well, and he's always partying, always getting into shenanigans.
Yeah.
And it's weird because there's a guy who looks just like you, but it can't be you because he's dressed as a butler and he's holding a tray. He seems like he's being super nice to that guy who looks just like you, but is dressed like a butler holding a tray.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even dare to infer that you haven't been a drum tech for Gary Newman, but have actually been his butler for the last 2 months. But, just crazy, coincidence.
You just reminded me. I have a fistful of dollar bills that I need to take to the bank that I just procured after this run. Yeah.
Well, we are certainly glad to have you back, Mr. Zach. We certainly missed you.
Well, don't get too cozy, because
I know.
Gotta jump back on the saddle pretty soon.
The dynamic was off. We had to bring in a bunch of weirdos. I'm just kidding. I love them.
I mean, they're not as weird as me, but I appreciate the effort.
We tried to get the weirdest people we could find, and it just wasn't weird enough. They were actually quite normal. It was a problem.
Yeah. They were funny and knowledgeable. Just
the complete polar opposite of me. You guys are fucking up.
And I myself am Jerry Nash, of course, your humble history boy.
There he is.
Yes, indeed. This week we are moving on to Boss Tweed, Part 2.
Yeah.
Now, last we left you, William Tweed was a rising star in the most powerful political organization in New York, Tammany Hall, being elected its Grand Sachem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, involving himself at key points of power, Tweed's influence through Tammany could be felt in all corners of the city. And the way Tammany spun it, by marking up government contracts and keeping some for themselves, it allowed them to distribute more patronage jobs and give multiple charitable benefits to the poor.
Well, that's good. Nice. I still picture, the way they behave in Turmeric Hall or whatever, is like the stonecutters from The Simpsons.
Yeah. Turmeric Hall.
Did we say Turmeric? I just blasted right past.
Yeah.
They say Tammany Hall is good for inflammation, but you have to activate it.
Yeah, you need pepper.
Yeah, black pepper.
There you go.
The other thing is, when they say that their skimming allows them to give money to the less fortunate, is it just like their buddies that don't make as much money as them that they're also paying off?
No, it legitimately is the poor. It really is.
But so everyone was able to. Everyone was feeling the Tweedy tendrils of trickle down economics, basically.
Indeed, it was basically trickle down economics run amok. Like it's literally everywhere, and I'll explain the entire scam because it is a scam.
Oh, 100%.
in a moment.
It's a funnel.
Yeah, right. Now, the election of 1868 between the Copperhead New York governor Horatio Seymour, we talked about him, and Ulysses S. Grant was super ugly in New York.
One of them kind was of a story.
Snake. Yeah, right. It's kind of a story for a different day. Now, even though Grant carried the state, a Republican, almost all of the Democrats took state and local positions, which is fishy, right? Like, how can that possibly be so? Well, everyone started pointing fingers at each other, saying, like, voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud, right? Like, you know, the Republicans pointed fingers at the Democrats, and the Democrats pointed fingers at the Republicans, right? So
why does this sound familiar?
Yeah. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. So yeah, this investigation was launched, and you know they subpoenaed all of these really high-profile Democrats and Republicans and all these things. And actually, the head of the state Democratic Party at the time, Samuel Tilden, who you'll remember from Tale of Two Elections,
Yes.
the Swallowtail, right? He was selected to speak at this investigation on the same day, like moments before Boss Tweed, right, was also scheduled to speak during this investigation. Now, the investigation committee had what they thought was a smoking gun of voter fraud, right? It was this piece of paper, and it was signed by Samuel Tilden, and it was basically asking the Northern Democrats for early returns on the northern part of the state. So when they could get these early returns, they could like doctor the votes in their favor before they got the whole state return, the full state, right? So it looked like a clear attempt at trying to count the votes before they got in.
Yeah.
Right? And
so is this people in power not even trying to hide their like corruption pretty much because they're like, it doesn't matter.
Samuel Tilden denied it. He was like, it's a forgery.
Okay. You ever see the movie Election with Matthew Broderick? We actually watched that last night, and you know the spoiler alert, came out, you know, I don't know, 45 years ago? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, a long time ago.
When he drops the 2 votes in the trash can, I was like, oh, pocket those, you fucking moron. They're going to find that. And they do. Yeah. And he gets fired. And these guys didn't even do that. They were like, I'm throwing these in the trash, telling everybody.
You know,
like, what are you going to do
that
about
movie the story of Boss Tweed.
Yeah, right, there you go.
Because they're the twee indie vibes going on in the movie Election. So,
yeah.
Whoever what's the actress in that?
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, not Renee Zellweger, the other one.
No,
she was quite young in that. So
the third one,
the other
she was
white
busy.
woman.
She was busy making Bridget Jones Diarrhea. I'm sorry, maybe Bridget Jones Diarrhea 2.
Oh, yeah. Hot takes from our film critic Tyler Armtrout.
Yes.
Takes as hot as Bridget Jones Diarrhea.
Yeah. It says
as hot as Bridget Jones's hot snakes. You mean?
Now, for Tilden, Tweed wasn't really an enemy. He was more of a rival at this point, right? His wing of the Democrats were the Swallowtails, old money rich kind of guys, right? So he wasn't, you know, even though he was a Grand Sachem of Tammany at one point, he wasn't like super in with Tweed, but he wasn't also not his friend at this point, right? He was just sort of like, okay, who the fuck is this guy, right?
Who's this guy coming in here changing our ideas?
Yeah. The thing was, he called this letter a forgery, and then it turns out that the DA, Okie Hall, said he wrote it. And he goes, yeah, I wrote it and I forged his signature. I thought I should do it. Because, you know, while the head of our, department's away, it's customary to just sign it on, like, election night when decisions need to be made. And they're like, okay. Like, everyone just sort of, like, shook their heads, like, what?
So
You know?
did he really?
Yeah.
He didn't really do
Whoa.
it, right? Is he lying?
No proof. No proof.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows.
So it's like
exactly.
in the movie Election,
Huh.
Yeah.
when the sister lies about tearing down the posters, you know, so she can go to that all-girls school.
Yeah.
Did he go to an all-girls school after that?
No.
The DA?
No. No, in fact, during this election, Oki Hall was actually elected mayor.
Mm.
Elegant Oki is what they called him.
Ooh.
Yeah, because he had this beard. He always wore a nice suit. He was a very personable, very public guy. On St. Patrick's Day, he wore like a green suit. You know, sometimes he would like officiate German weddings. You know, so they would call him Von Hall, right? Oki Von Hall.
Huh.
I'd like to think
German.
the weddings he officiated, he wasn't. Nobody thought he was going to, and he just showed up like spinning a cane.
He looked
so-
like the Monopoly guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like if there was a dial on one side was the Monopoly guy, and the other side was Jim Carrey's Riddler. It's right in the middle.
Well, what
I was
about
thinking the Penguin.
the mayor from? You're just describing the mayor from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well,
Yeah, he's
it's a
great.
good day.
Well, it's got the two faces.
Yeah,
It's a great
See?
pun.
Yeah, Elegant Oki. He also wrote poetry. He's like, they like to call me the king of the Bohemians, and they're like, who calls you that? You know?
Why?
Me,
them.
I'm the appointed
Yeah.
king of the Bohemians.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
mom does okay.
Yeah.
Runs off crying.
So yeah, everyone kind of shook their heads, and then when Tweed came in, they were like, "Do you guys use? Do you order your people to do like strong arm politics in during elections?" And he's like, "Heavens no." He's like, I don't order anyone to do anything," and he was actually telling the truth because he didn't have to order anyone to do anything. These Tammany people, they wanted those patronage jobs. They would do it without being told, you know. So
That's nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
See,
they-
the millennials could learn a lot from these guys. I mean, they pulled themselves from their bootstraps. They didn't have to deal with all these handouts and avocado toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could lie,
come on,
cheat, and
guys.
steal.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's how you do it.
like
Yeah.
a
When
you
real
lie and cheat,
American. You
yeah.
fucking idiots.
Yeah.
When you're lying and cheating and stealing, you can buy so much avocado toast.
Yeah.
And they also justified the letter. They were like, you know what this was for? This was for to basically prevent any Republican fuckery in the northern part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, huh, okay. And the thing is both sides were trying to do it, you know,
Yeah.
and they were just getting. So the whole thing was inconclusive, and no one was ever found guilty or arrested or anything like
They're
that.
like,
It
"Fuck
just sort
it."
of ended. Yeah,
That also sounds familiar.
yeah.
Right.
All the fuckery, there was so much fuckery coming from both sides that it canceled each other out. And just
Well, you couldn't really prove any of it, and both sides were saying the same thing, and they had proof. So they kind of canceled each other out. I guess that's sort of right. Yeah. He was also Tweed was also asked about. He's like, do you give out patronage jobs where the people don't actually do any work, they just collect a check? And he goes, I'll admit, I don't really go down to the office every day, but when I call upon them, they can always be found. That's almost a direct quote.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, I suppose they got us on that one, you know? And that's about it, you know?
Yeah.
God, I want a patronage job like that.
I
Oh,
know,
that'd be the
right?
best.
It's a sweet deal.
Yeah, just hang out down at the old Tammany Hall and drink beers all day.
Yeah, that's basically what they were doing. But
yeah,
I'll get there.
The way that Tammany Hall is being described to me is essentially a beer hall.
Well, it's like a boys' club. It's like an Elks Lodge or like a Stonecutter's, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
thing,
yeah.
You know, it is like a Masonic Hall, an Elks Lodge, those type of things.
Mhm.
Right.
If you're one of Tweed's like cronies,
Yeah.
Do you think that they keep the blackjacks for breaking legs in Tammany Hall, or do you got to bring your own from home?
Well, I'm gonna answer that with a story here soon.
I always thought that they were raccoon tails when they had them in cartoons.
Yeah.
Not blackjacks. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I found out that they were full of like metal dust, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
From like factories, like machining places.
I always thought that they were springs with like a metal or lead heads.
I thought it was like metal
correct?
filings, so it was like tight packed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like this leather pouch, right, that kept all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And they
Maybe
hitched-
there's all kinds of different kinds.
they're
You hit him in the
probably
back of the head with them.
I may or may not own a slapjack, allegedly.
slapjack. Is that is that the same thing as a blackjack?
Maybe
Allegedly, it's the same thing, and it's a leather-bound, allegedly, mind you, leather-bound little hand thing, basically. Then there's a spring, so it kind of like wiggles around, and then at the very top is a very hard piece that I'm assuming is a piece of metal or some sort. Allegedly, I've seen this
I
around.
own one.
Right? No, heavens no, heavens forbid. What am I? Some sort of crony?
hired thug. Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I bet you we got
A
some
goon.
hired muscle that is a listener of our show out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
yeah.
both of these devices are true, let us know.
Tell
If
us the
one
difference.
of them is not, what's the difference? Are they for different amounts of debt that somebody might owe? Like,
Oh, we're getting the big blackjack out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I wanna
drop it
know
on
the
'em.
ins.
There's
I wanna know
like the
outs.
blackjack, the slapjack, and the killjack.
The backjack, the
Yeah.
jack.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
If you got to ask what the jack is, you can't afford it, honey.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. In this economy. But the papers, though, even though the investigation had no indictments or charges and was inconclusive, the papers had a field day. At the height of this era's, and I do say this particular era's, newspaper wars, right? Because it seems like every era has a form of a newspaper war. But in this case, in one corner that, is criticizing Tweed and Tammany that are, Republican papers, you got your New York Times, Horace Greeley's New York Tribune, and Harper's Weekly. Those are the ones, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you got a bunch that are friendly to Tweed and Tammany, and maybe some are just more. They're more in line with the Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the old rag, the New York Sun, the Globe, and for a while the New York Herald. But that's going to change here in a little while.
Don't forget about the New Yorker. They were doing scathing cartoons about Tammany Hall, but nobody who hung out there could understand them.
Yeah.
So they just moved on with their life.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm gonna talk more about that in the next episode. Just know that right now, like Thomas Nast, like his cartoons don't even look like Boss Tweed yet. He's not even putting Boss Tweed on the front yet, or sometimes maybe in the background. He's gonna, because of what's gonna happen here.
Oh, it'll get there.
So, Tammany now had all of these positions, these key points of political power in their hands, right? They had a sheriff, O'Brien, Jimmy O'Brien. He helped them sort of rig elections by using his police force to do strong arm politics, basically, on people. And the repeaters, right? There were people repeat voting over and over again. Then they had the new governor, who was the New York mayor, John T. Hoffman, as governor. Right, so John T. Hoffman's now governor, Tammany man. Then you have a new mayor, Elegant Okie Hall, and then the controller. And the controller, basically, he's the guy that's responsible for writing checks from the city to anyone that they've contracted out, right? He's the guy in charge of signing the checks, the controller.
Yeah.
And
Keeping
his
shit under
name-
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name was Slippery Dick Richard Connolly.
Hey.
That guy, I'm going to be honest, sounds potentially corrupt.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, that job just sounds like the most, like, if you weren't a corrupt person, it just turns you into one. I feel like there's just...
yeah. You're in charge of writing checks.
Mhm.
I mean,
Go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say he had to be corrupt because personal lubricant was far more expensive back in those days, and he had to keep his penis constantly slicked, or else people would be like, "You're not doing your name thing, dude. You're supposed to be slippery dick." And he's like, "I'm trying to be as scheming as possible," and they're like, "No, you better have an actual slippery dick, or else you don't get that nickname anymore. There's other guys with way slipperier dicks, and they've been waiting in line for this opportunity, and it's not fair to them."
That's fantastic. My favorite thing about those Tyler's jokes like that is at first you're like, where is he going with this? And they're like, oh, the slippery dick. I get it.
Yeah.
I see where it's going. Just like, so lubricant. We're like, okay.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Zach, you were saying.
Oh, I was just going to say that I'm disappointed that he didn't have a French background and his name wasn't blank check.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all right. But slippery dick is a far better joke.
Zach was like, I was trying to build something classy and elegant.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler came in with a 5-cent dick joke and bulldozed my whole thing.
I'm glad to see that nothing has changed in
Yep.
this organization.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Now, then there was a city chamberlain. He was called the brains of the operation, of this particular operation. His name was Peter B. Sweeney. And actually, he was actually elected DA at one point. However, he resigned immediately because he got stage fright on his first trial.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran out of the courtroom and resigned. He hated being in the spotlight. Slippery Dick Connolly and like Aoki Hall would like try to teach him how to like, pal around and be sociable. And he was like, "Fuck that! I don't like that."
I don't want it at all.
Yeah.
Has he tried drinking?
Drinking house.
Right. So he was like their brains of the situation, but he wanted to be very much in the background. And then there was the new New York State Senator, just a state senator, right? And that was Boss William Tweed. So
wild card.
These are these key points, right? And basically, what they were handed was this golden opportunity, right? And it sort of took them to sort of like put their heads together and figure out that basically this scheme, because what they can do is they're already skimming off the top, right? It used to be like 15% that they would mark it up and then keep that 15% for themselves, right? That's just kind of what they were doing.
It's just costume business.
Right, exactly. There was a problem that arose. And by the way, they called these guys when they would meet, they called them the Lunch Club.
Okay.
Because they would meet
I
at
like
the
this club already.
Yeah. And actually, when I was a kid,
I liked the Breakfast Club.
Well, my brother was a big fan of the Breakfast Club as a kid, and he called it the Lunch Club because he could never remember that the name was. He was very young. So yeah. Anyway, it's actually pretty funny.
More of a brunch guy.
Yeah.
They
You're
met
not
at
an alcoholic.
they met at the Metropolitan Hotel where Tweed ran the place. They would meet up for lunch there. Later, this group, this Lunch Club, as they were called, it would later be known as the Tweed Ring. Because
I like the
this
Lunch Club
ring,
more.
yeah, like ran this city.
The Lunch Club just sounds like they got sandwiches. So
Yeah.
Well, and also the Tweed Ring, like, way to fucking throw him under the bus. Like, if shit goes down, they're like, oh yeah, we're the guys who work for the corrupt Boss Tweed. We're the Tweed Ring.
Yeah.
You know, the Lunch Club, I just imagine a bunch of guys putting handkerchiefs down the front of their shirts.
Oh yeah.
And opening up those old-timey metal lunch boxes that got a thermos inside.
Oh yeah. I was picture construction workers back in the day using those.
Ah, pimento loaf again. Ah, you know, that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, remember that they're much richer, so they're like sitting at like this hotel that like one of them owns, and like, you know, they got like room, you know, the waiters and stuff. But yeah, they do like stuff it into their shirts, and like they drank wine and champagne for lunch, and like they smoked the finest cigars, except for Tweed. Tweed didn't actually like smoking cigars, and he didn't really like being drunk. He had actually never been drunk, what he says. He self-admittedly, his one vice was food, and he would eat a lot, and he was a big boy, you know. Yeah. So, admittedly, he was like, I like food.
He's like, oh no, I don't drink, but after this, I'm going to fill the bowl. If you know what I mean.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I like the fact that these guys already had a good thing going, and they could have skimmed 15% off the top of everything they did until they died and got away with it, and been eating at hotels they're not staying at for lunch until the end of their career. But they're like, you know what? Let's be greedy, guys. This has never backfired.
Yeah, greed, man. And even when they had like, I'll get it goes further. They push it and push it and push it, you know, further and further and further.
Much like Boss Tweed was pushing out those magnificent hotel lunches.
Poop joke. A dick joke and a poop joke, Tyler. Good job. This is the quality entertainment that our listeners have come to adore.
Yeah.
Boss Tweed's diary now.
God damn it.
Jesus.
Still Renee Zellweger. She's in guy makeup. That's what I'm proposing. Sorry.
It shouldn't surprise you to know that his marriage suffered. You know, his wife took their fucking, I think, 8 or 9 children. Like, he had a 10th child again. You know, remember, only so many actually survived, but she took all of her children to like their country home in Connecticut or whatever, where they had like yachts and shit. Like one named after himself and one named after her. You know,
that's how rich they were getting. Called Boss Tweed the boat.
No, it was called the William Tweed, and what's her
listening
name?
to a comedian, Sarah Sherman, said something about millionaires or something. And she was like, if you own more than 2 boats, you should put it on a watch list.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree.
You get 1 boat. You can trade it in for a bigger boat. You can get richer.
Yeah.
If you have more than 2 boats, you are put on a watch list. It's Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're under 30, there's other lists if you're over 30. They're probably also in Forbes. I don't know what's in Forbes. I don't even know what Forbes does as a magazine. I just know it's where rich people are in there. They're in there on lists.
They're like, here's lists of rich people. That's all it is, right?
Yeah, they're all just British.
In case you were wondering, here's all the rich people.
Yeah, here's a bunch of rich people. Yeah, in case you wanted to know, and marvel at their riches.
Yeah.
But the big problem was about getting money out of New York is that it was all tied up in Albany. The state government controlled the city budget. It controlled the city police. It controlled a bunch of shit, right? And it was an issue that spanned the political spectrum at the time. It was popular with Republicans. It was popular with all the Democrats and whatnot. Was home rule, was letting New York City govern itself outside of the state. And this is where Tweed saw the big opportunity, right? If he could let New York govern itself, right? There was a couple of things he would have to do, though. There were going to be a lot of Republicans that would see this as a Tammany power grab, which it was. But they could be bought. He had done this before during the railroad wars of the time. He sided with the Erie Railroad, and they did this whole thing. It's a story for a different day. It is interesting. I just don't have time to get into it. He ended up getting like Fisk and like some of these guys on his side. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was the owner of yeah, right. He was the owner of this railroad, and he like switched parties and shit afterwards.
Did Marvel just straight up go, let's use that guy's name?
They were like, that sounds like a great bad guy name.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, the Railroad Wars, I know it's a story for another day, it doesn't involve armies fighting on train back.
No. No.
I thought it was the original prequels to Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Attack
of the Trains.
Attack of the Trains. Thomas is pissed.
Oh, God.
No, it's about like right of ways and whether or not which railway gets to go here, which gets to go there. That's kind of more what it's about. But keep in mind that they, railway companies weren't above hiring people like Doc Holliday and those kind of guys.
We talked about that
to go and defend that type of thing, right?
Yeah, we talked about that in the Wyatt Earp one.
Yeah. And this is a little bit before that time, but still, same kind of shit's happening, right? Yeah, he totally paid off Republicans before, and another thing that he would do is he would give the Republicans those patronage jobs, right? And he's like, here's an allotment of patronage jobs. And he would give them like high profile, very public, people could see them, they're visible, those to Republicans, just to make sure that they're optically, nonpartisan, right? Like Ched Arthur got his first patronage job from one of these backroom deals, right?
Yeah.
Where Tammany handed over a job to probably Roscoe Conkling, and he gave it to Ched Arthur,
Yeah.
That's being just how a political meat shield for Tammany Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just if there's one thing that both sides can agree on, it's their love of corruption.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And another thing that they were good at while Tweed was senator, state senator, is they were good at hiding pork. You know what that means?
That cannot be literal.
It's the stuff that's added into bills that's meant to be hidden.
Yes, exactly.
It's hidden in the filler legalese. That's in a bill.
Yeah, it's hidden in legalese, and it's usually we're going to do this for my constituents. And then you just do it, and then it's wait, it's illegal. We somebody sues you for doing it. And then when you get to court, the lawyer's it's legal. It says it right here. And they're like, God damn it.
Snuck that in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, lots of pork that they push through.
Much like Boss Tweed. I'm sorry. It was right there.
There was a group of people inside of Tammany that felt like they were forgotten, or there's a lot of gravy going around, but they just weren't getting any, right? The number one person of these people was Jimmy O'Connell, the sheriff, because he tried to turn in one of his statements full of graft, here's my sheriff's office budget. I'm gonna need a check for this much, please. And Connell, slippery dick Connell, he looks at it and he goes, $300,000 for a sheriff's office? And he's like, that's crazy. And he goes, you guys do crazy shit all the time. How come I can't do crazy shit? And they're like,
can I be
get out of here
corrupt?
with that shit. They refuse to pay it. So this group that O'Connell was trying to form, they were calling themselves the Young Democrats, and they were going to stage this coup in Tammany and maybe even unseat Boss Tweed, right?
Oh.
Well,
then we'll be the ones who get to be corrupt.
Yeah,
and we'll be eating pork covered in gravy to lit up our bell bells.
Yeah. Both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So I take it didn't go their way, did it?
No. They tried some backroom deals with Tweed, and they didn't hold up. They kept demanding shit, and they were gonna vote against this home rule bill if Tweed didn't do something about it, right? And he was like, God damn it, I don't need this right now. So he circulated a rumor that he had been fired from this key position. Turns out he resigned. And he goes, let's meet. And he's like, first of all, I don't have the power to even talk to you about this anymore. And then he locked the doors of Tammany Hall when they showed up. So he locked them all out, all of them out there. And he's like, I don't even have the power to talk to you, but I am the boss of Tammany Hall, so I can lock you out if I want to, And he got his job back, of course, because he's the boss, right?
Yeah.
But he basically just showed them, I'm the real boss. Like, you try to fuck with me, I swear to God, I'll bury you. And then he found each one of them and then fired them from each of their jobs, and, like, rooted them all out and shit.
That's exactly what Bruce Springsteen did.
That's why he is the boss. It's true.
That's why they call him that.
Wait, Bruce Springsteen politically faked his own death to weed out all of his enemies?
Yeah. Yes.
It's rock and roll history, man. Come on.
Yes, he did that.
I mean, I feel like we brought up Emperor Palpatine a couple of times on this podcast. He's the only character who's universally beloved amongst all people, regardless of whether or not you're a Star Wars fan, because he does shit like this. He's just a cackling baddie.
Yeah. It's not
just a crazy old dark sorcerer, just laughing and wearing sunglasses.
Oh, he's having a blast.
Around.
He's having a great time.
So, while these Tammany rebels were scattered, Tweed, at great cost, paid off and promised patronage jobs to all these Republicans, and they pushed through the Home Rule Bill. Not everyone was a believer. Horace Greeley didn't know exactly what was planned, but he was like, something's going on here. He's like, I think this is a good idea. You know, I definitely want home rule, but something's going on here. There's something nefarious happening here. And Tilden even got up there and said, like, sheepishly, he said to Tweed, he was like, yeah, I'm just saying we need to change it a little bit. You put these people in power, you stripped the aldermen of their financial power to the city. So, like, basically the aldermen don't even have to, like, give it the stamp of approval anymore. And, like, they gave the mayor power to appoint these key positions. And if there was an administration change, like, let's say the mayor didn't win his election, these people couldn't be fired at all. You had to, like, go through this lengthy court process to impeach them. And their terms were 6 to 8 years. And these key points of power happen to be controller, and then controller of public works, like head of public works, right? Things like that, right? And, like, Tilden was like, dude, you're giving all this power to a handful of people, it seems, but we can't prove anything. There's no proof yet, but that's what it looks like is happening. And Tweed, like, snapped at him a little bit. And
it's like, how dare you?
Pretty much. He was like, I don't like talking about this right now, or anymore.
I mean, the proof was in the pudding that Boss Tweed was mid-eating at that point.
Oh, yeah. It was actually during a hearing, too.
Oh, well, that doesn't... Those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
exactly.
It could have been a hearing at the Four Seasons, and
Four Seasons tire shop or whatever it was.
It was like
Four Seasons
landscaping.
Landscaping.
That's landscaping.
No,
that's right.
Politicians weren't complete idiots back then.
Yeah, still are. Yeah, it was during a hearing. Later, Samuel Tilden would be like, yeah, I walked into Boss Tweed's own lion dead and gave him the old what for. And it's like, shut up, dude.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
In reality,
you didn't have sex with Boss Tweed, okay? Stop bragging.
Yeah. In reality, he left that place crying.
Yeah. So, once Home Rule was passed, the Lunch Club convened again, this time in Albany, in a secret meeting that later people would deny taking place. The thing is getting that home rule bill passed, it was really expensive, like, for each of them, like, personally. So they had to, like, figure out a way where they could, like, make more money now, right? They got it, right? So now they were in full control of New York's budget, their books, and all of these things, right? Like, they can totally do pretty much whatever they want. But something that they found that they're like, holy shit, there's a bunch of unpaid bills sitting around from the city, like a shit ton of them. And they're like, what if we paid them all, just totally cleared the books, paid all of them. And what we would do is we'll put 35% on top of it. and then we'll distribute that 35% between us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then it's like, okay, well, that's beautiful because go ahead, go through, find it, issue these like warrants, and like they'll go out, they'll go to the controller's office, he'll sign it. His accountant, who's also being paid off, like his main accountant there, is being paid off. He'll fucking go with it, right? And then everybody gets paid off, and so does the bill. So on the surface, everything looks above board. Not a dollar looks out of place because everything on the bill is being paid.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, aren't they essentially just doing their job but taking a bigger cut?
Well, it's the same thing as that 15%. They've just upped it to 35. And instead of relying on new contracts coming in, there's all these unpaid ones that were either rejected or like had just slipped through the cracks, and they like scooped them all up, and they were like, okay, accepted. And like a lot of these contractors were like, I was never actually paid for anything.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. So on paper they're saying these contracts are being paid, but they weren't actually dispersing funds?
Oh, they totally were. There were actually like 4 bank accounts that most of the money actually went into that were like 4 contractors' accounts. But what they would do is they would manipulate it from there. Now I'm going to get to that here in a second. But the way they would have to do this is that they would have to conduct an audit, right? They would have to get all these bills together, conduct an audit, and basically what they were doing was auditing themselves. So when you audit yourself, whatever you find is going to fly. You know what I mean?
You're like, this looks pretty above board. Yeah.
Right.
It's totally like...
I'm going to be honest. It sounds like a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
No, man, this stuff's totally cool, man. It's like police unions or internal affairs or like, I don't know, the 9/11 Commission. Like it's like it's stuff that's there to make sure they're being good, and you get guys on the inside to look at the other guys on the inside to make sure everybody's doing a good job.
Yeah.
And so and that's the reason why these things always happen, and you find out everything's above board. It's fine.
Yeah, they're like, everything's fine. I investigated it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
While I did it.
What do you think of my new watch?
Right, exactly. Well, that's what started happening. Like, Slippery Dick was the one, writing all these checks, and like everything was hush hush, and like in a couple of weeks the money just started flowing in. And like the thing is everybody kind of had to beg Slippery Dick for like to get paid on their contract. Like even Tweed had to be like, pay so and so's bill, so we can all get paid here. And like the guy before Slippery Dick was like too honest, and like so Boss Tweed was like, yeah, we're not gonna re-elect you, I'm sorry. And the guy was like, why haven't I been a good controller? And he was like, he straight up said, you aren't allowing anyone to make money, let alone yourself, so we're not gonna go with you anymore.
Yeah, you're not corrupt enough.
His dick was not slippery enough.
Yeah. Bone dry. It's
Now
it's a bone dry dick.
Slippery Dick actually wanted more money because he's like, none of this is possible without me.
Yeah.
And I'm the one doing all like I'm putting myself out there. I'm incurring the most danger, right, from this. So
Slippery Dick deserves the biggest tip.
Yeah. That's right.
So he goes, okay, we'll raise yours, but then you got to give me 25% of that. And then you also got to give Sweeney 10% of that. Because like Sweeney's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? We're changing terms here? No. And like Okie Hall's
so you
off.
Pay him off.
Yeah, Okie Hall's off being Okie Hall, right? But like, so these guys are like talking. They're like, wait, these numbers aren't adding up. And then they go, wait a minute. Fuck all that. Let's tell Okie Hall that we can only give him 5%. And we'll just split the rest of it. So they like screwed Okie on like another 5%.
Well, I mean, and Sweeney needs money so he can make all his famous meat pies.
Yeah. And Okie's going to be showing up
jokes.
next St. Patty's Day wearing a tuxedo T-shirt, and everyone's going to boo him.
Yeah, right.
Not so elegant anymore, are you douchebag? And they're going to pelt him with green eggs because it's St. Patty's Day. Do they do green? No, they don't. They don't. Never mind.
Yeah.
Wrong
Green
holiday.
eggs. Do they do eggs at St. Patrick's?
Yeah.
I got it mixed up with Easter.
Yeah. You combine
My two
You
favorite
were
Catholic
thinking-
holidays, fucking St. Patty's Day and Easter.
Yeah.
You could do a green egg on St. Patty's Day, like
You
know,
could.
the Patty's egg.
It's like
Yeah.
Always Sunny. They have,
Yeah.
you know.
Was
I
green,
think
egg,
I was-
green eggs and ham. You got
I
green
was
eggs and
thinking-
ham mixed up with St. Patrick's Day.
I literally was thinking Easter, but then I saw Danny DeVito in my head being
Like egg.
this egg. Yeah.
Can I give you an egg during this trying time?
I'm pretty sure the Patty's egg is green.
The one that
Yeah.
they're selling. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
It
great.
is, yeah.
Anyway, they got rich really fast. And like everyone took notice, like, especially the New York Times. They're like, something is fucking going on over there. You guys are robbing us blind when we know it. But again, like the city treasury totally drained. And what do you do when you drain a treasury like that? Issue bonds.
Fundraise.
Issue bonds. Go into debt. And you try to attract foreign investors. So what they did is they contacted like their friendly Tammany guys that had all these foreign investor connections, with the Rothschilds being one of them.
Nice.
Like August Belmont, like these guys, all episodes for different days. Yeah, they started investing in all these city bonds, which they considered safe, safe investments, with all this new public works that are going on. Because, of course, they took this whole thing further, right? Because Tweed was head of the public works. He could buy land before anyone even knew that there was going to be like a new public like park there, right? So they'd be like, let's build a park right here. I'll buy it. And then what I'll do is I'll double the price of land value by just being like, I'm sorry, New York City, you have to pay more. I own it. And because you're the guy writing the checks, you'll be like, okay, Mr. Tweed. And you'll sign the check. You'll give it to me, And then when we build this thing, we still take our 35% off of literally everything, off of every contract.
Just skim every top there is.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you
Yeah.
guys. This is exactly like, this is in like 50 years when hopefully if society hasn't burned to the ground, in history classes when they're talking about like the post-COVID price gouging.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
They're just like,
They're just
whatever
laundering
we
city
say
money.
the price is what the price is because I bought it before anyone knew, and then I
Yeah.
made it this, and
Yeah.
milk's
it's also-
$10 a gallon, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a tale
and
as
it's
old
also
as
just
time.
laundering tax dollar is what it's doing.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, everyone's just trying to get to that precious city money that's just there. They're like, we can get to it. There was almost an infinite amount. We can just sell more bonds. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Like it's
Jeez.
so they would straight up be like, you'd get bills with like miles of carpet on it, where you could like carpet like the whole block, right? Or more than the whole block. And they'd be like, yeah, that was enough carpet for this one place. So they even inflated those numbers and got the 35% off of those numbers. They did every little place they could. They would make money hand over fist.
I mean, there's no way people aren't just seeing this. It's got to be
Right.
pretty blatant, right?
And back
Oh,
then, you
yeah.
couldn't
Well-
spend money on like dumb shit like NFTs. All
Right.
the money that you spent had to be spent on shit that people could see. So like all of a sudden, these guys are just showing up with like gold shoes, gold buckles, fur coats, like
Well,
horses.
they started wearing these
buckling
top
under
hats
Yeah.
that were shiny, and they started calling them the Shiny Hat Brigade.
shiny hats. They had so much money that they could buy shiny hats.
Yeah. And they kept competing over who had the shiniest hat, and they kept getting
Oh,
shinier
God.
and shinier until they were pretty much just like mirror covered,
Yeah.
like reflective.
They're like, his hat, we thought it was shiny. It's a New Hope shiny. His hat's Return of the Jedi shiny. I'm talking about Darth Vader helmet shininess here. Second Star Wars reference of the show. I'm taking it back. No more Simpsons. Now we do Star Wars because nobody does Star Wars. It's a weird niche thing that only nerds like.
Nobody talks about Star Wars.
Nobody talks about Star Wars.
But I'm
not
just
on
saying,
the internet.
Helmet's almost matte in A New Hope. By Return of the Jedi, you can see the cameraman reflection.
Yeah.
He's practically C-3PO at the end of New Hope when he's got the new plates.
Anyway.
Good point.
Shiny hats.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
Shiny
saying.
Hat Brigade, yes.
Yeah.
No, like for me, what's just fucking bonkers is that this is straight out of that. It reminds me of that scene in Goodfellas, like the Christmas scene. Like, what did I tell you? Don't fucking spend any goddamn money.
Oh yeah.
Everyone buying the fur coats for the wives, and the pink Cadillac and shit.
Well, here's the thing.
Come on.
It's all above board.
Yeah.
None of this is against the law.
It's legal because they made it legal.
They made it legal. It's all legal, really. And none of it actually looks like it's being stolen. You know? Not a penny looks out of place,
It's,
Jerry, where's our cut then?
Yeah.
I want
a
my
shiny
cut.
hat like Ray Liotta did in Star Wars.
I still love that meme that you made.
Yeah. There you go.
Which one?
Oh,
The Ray Liotta Ray meme.
Oh, yeah, that was OG when I put
That's
Ray Liotta's face, rest in peace, on Ray from Star Wars. And then I put a real quote from Ray Liotta.
That's great.
I gotta find that. It's gotta be somewhere.
Yeah, we gotta show the fans that one.
Yeah, that's there you go.
I still like Khaleesi Rabisi.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when Giovanna Ribisi was on, what's her name from Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Same deal, different combo.
So considering this, a new Tammany Hall was built, the one where it is now. By the way, gentlemen, when we were in New York, we walked by it and I pointed it out, and I nerded out for a second, and you guys were like,
What about turmeric?
I know.
Well, how hungover were you guys?
Huh?
Exceptionally.
How hungover were you guys?
It was very hot as well.
Was
It
that day?
hot. I think we were hungover. I think we were just dehydrated.
Was it the day that I went back?
That was the day you were like, you stopped at Central Park and you were like, no, I'm not going on.
I can't make it.
Yeah.
You guys gotta go on without me.
Yeah.
I looked up at 30 Rockefeller Center and got vertigo and was like, I'm going back to the Airbnb, man. I need air conditioning. I need to rest. I'm a human being, Jerry.
I was exceptionally hungover at the point in time where you showed us, turmeric hall.
Anyway.
Going with that.
There was a new Tammany Hall built, this huge, beautiful building. And the new county courthouse was also built. Also, this big, beautiful, lavish building, marble, all this stuff. And of course, they put that 35% on everything. And we're basically printing money. You know what I mean? And they couldn't have another mayor. So there wasn't even it wasn't like a mayoral elector year, right? Because mayors only serve for 2 years, right? And Okie Hall replaced Hoffman as mayor after Hoffman became governor. So he actually didn't need to be elected, but just to be safe, Boss Tweed ran him as for mayor without Okie Hall ever actually knowing. So it was on election day they were handing out ballots for mayor, and I think it was it was 1,000, in the thousands for Okie Hall, and then 102 for literally anyone else or something.
Just to seal
So
the
you
deal.
gotta go do a speech. You're the mayor now, and he's like, I guess I'm mayor, and everyone's like, yay!
Yeah. Yeah. They
Say
couldn't
the
have him
line,
leaving.
Bart.
Yeah. The thing was, though, is when Boss Tweed bought a plot of land in your neighborhood, something amazing was going to happen for your neighborhood, right? They're we're going to get a new park or something. So most people didn't care that they were robbing the city blind, because it didn't really matter. He was going to build all this cool shit, and I guess he's going to get really fucking rich off of it, right? They didn't care.
And we
They
get a
could
dope
get
park
this
out of
patronage.
this scenario.
Yeah. They could get patronage jobs, and there were there was all these charitable things, always happening. So when it came to time for the Democratic convention, Tilden was chairing it, and he's solemnly like bangs the gavel, and he has this long speech, and like all the newspapers of the day were like, dude, you're putting them to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're putting all these people to sleep. The thing is he had these 500 tickets, right, that he could give to one side or another within the party to like swing a vote, right, to his side or the other side, right? And the Young Democrats actually asked if they could have those 500 tickets. And he was like, I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it. I know you have the tickets.
I know you
could
got
be
them.
a spectator.
I just imagine a roll of those tickets that you get at like D&B's, like Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get enough to get like a PlayStation.
Yeah, it's not even a place. It's an empty box.
You need like a huge thing.
I think the 500 tickets gets you 3 fun-sized Laffy Taffies
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
and a finger monster.
Yeah.
And
I
maybe
got
like
2
an
finger
eraser
mounts.
that's shaped like a Hello Kitty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But it didn't end up mattering. Like the 500 tickets were stolen out of Tilden's room, like the room he was staying in, like the night before the convention. So didn't matter. And honestly,
But there were 500 extra votes for some, I don't know, random guy.
Well, it became.
It was good space guy.
Yeah, there you go. For our Seattle listeners out there, it was pretty apparent where those votes or where those tickets went.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden the convention was full of like 500 Tammany like street toughs, these like almost like borderline gang members, if not total gang members.
Oh, they had blackjacks.
Yeah.
Or
and
slapjacks.
Or slapjacks.
Or Jack Jacks.
Yeah.
yeah. Like,
Possibly flapjacks.
yeah. Also flapjacks, which was nice of them.
No, Boss Tweed had the flapjacks.
Yeah.
Well, they had to keep him. They had to keep him happy.
Yeah.
It's true.
He would roll them around a stick of butter and eat them that way.
That sounds pretty good. They were basically there to raise hell, to pick pockets, and to cheer for Boss Tweed, right, when he spoke, right? So basically, like, the whole time, like, there's fights breaking out, like, it's chaos, and they're like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is going on, and everyone's like, it's gotta be Tweed's men, and he's like, I don't know these people.
I
These are
like to
my
think
people.
these
Meanwhile,
street
they're
toughs
like,
are...
"Hey, Tweed, I'm gonna beat this guy's
I
head,
love
and
you."
hey,
Yeah.
you know me, it's Sam."
Yeah, I helped you out that one time. Yeah, so all this is happening, and like Sam Tilden himself gets his pocket picked as he's stepping off the stage. Like, he looks down, and there's like a dude with like his hand in his pocket.
God damn it.
John just zips off.
Yeah. Which I just think is so funny.
That's
like,
insane.
It's so funny that actually happened.
Oh my god.
But it sort of proved who owned the new Democratic Party. The new Northern Democratic Party. It was Tammany and it was Tweed. Like, everybody fucking knew it now. You know what I mean? Like, Tilden kept getting, like, brushed aside, And, like, Tilden had his own ambitions. Like, he was like, I want to run for president one day. And he would get his chance. But not
How'd
with
that go?
Tweed in the way. Because, Tweed was going to run Hoffman for president, And he was probably going to run Okie Hall for governor.
Yeah.
And then probably Okie Hall would get another presidential, bill or run at it. You know what I mean? So there was no opening for Tilden. Tilden was going to be left behind as long as Tweed was calling the shots.
So inside of Tweed's ambitions, like, the throne just gets bigger, and he just stays behind it, pulling all the strings like a crazy puppet master.
Yeah. When Seymour didn't, like, Horatio Seymour didn't get elected, Tweed was like, I don't give a shit who's in fucking Washington. Like, that's a long ways away, pal. I got the city now,
Yeah.
But he could, like, turn this whole thing into a nationwide operation. And it become filthy, stupid rich. Almost as rich almost as rich as Bill Gates or Elon Musk.
Oh wow.
Jesus.
Almost.
He's gonna buy Twitter.
Not quite as rich. Definitely not quite as rich. Even by today's
Boss Tweed
standards.
on Twitter. Nuts.
Yeah. He needed him out of the way, basically, but he didn't know what to do. The New York Times, Harper's Weekly, they would rail against him. Again, I'm going to talk more about that in the next episode, the top of the next episode. Thomas Nast. And this is what we all remember Thomas Nast for. I'm going to talk more about that at the next episode. But they basically didn't have any evidence. When Tweed would make like these big charitable contributions, to like impress people, the Times would be like, stolen money returned, which is a solid burn.
Yeah. That's great.
And the thing is the cult of Tweed just grew around it, though. When you create all those patronage jobs, these clubs sprang up in his honor, like the 7th Ward Tweed Club, that came up. Yeah, and they all wore red to signify like the Big Six engine, right? That Tweed used to be on, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's Tweed World.
Yeah. It's like at the bottom of Gotham City. Like that's what Tweed wanted for New York City.
Oh no, I'm thinking about like how they talk about Trump World and MAGA World.
Oh,
and like all these kind of cultists who like just kind of they just scoop up his crumbs and
they're happy
I assume
with it.
Masturbate to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like Ted Cruz.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the man.
Spineless.
What a
Step right
pathetic
up.
fucking rat.
Yeah.
The man
Ted
with no
Cruzes and Lindsey
integrity.
Grahams of the world. Yes.
Yeah, and everyone was just like, how are we going to convince them that Tweed is a bad guy? Because all these, he was a job creator. You know what I mean? He created all
Fuck
these
jobs.
jobs. A lot of money went to the poor at a time when government programs simply did not exist. He allotted like these programs from Tammany to the poor people. I mean, they were legit. They were. It did help people. But yeah, it was like what the Times said: stolen money returned.
Right.
I mean, in the meantime, he wore a 10-carat diamond on his lapel. You know what I mean? Nobody needs a fucking 10-carat diamond. Like,
I seriously wonder if Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, is based off this guy at all.
I almost promise you, he was a railroad magnate. His name was Jim Fisk, or
Desperado.
James Fisk. And I think he was.
Jim Fisk.
I think he was with the Erie Railway.
I almost think they thought that like the editors or Stanley or whoever thought that maybe Fisk was a more interesting sounding villain name, but just took Boss Tweed and then put the name Fisk on the end, and were like, because they had heard about these, maybe in their education and also in New York history, they're New Yorkers, and we're like, how do we kind of combine this kind of like, I don't know, this like public facing persona mixed with all this graft happening on the side and kind of make somebody that Spider-Man can punch in the face every other issue.
Yeah.
And every year they'd throw a Tammany convention. At the height of Tammany's power, this convention was huge. And the party was fucking nuts. All of Tammany, every Tammany supporter came and supported.
Would you say it was a bit of a Tammany tantrum?
Oh.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, it was this huge party.
I did it.
Everyone, who was anyone showed up, Tilden showed up, but he kind of stayed in the corner,
Nobody wanted to talk to him.
Well, when he did speak, he was careful not to say Tammany or Tweed. He got up and said, like, Hoffman for president. And they're like, yay. Because that, they were thinking, like, Hoffman for president at that time. And yeah, Horatio Seymour showed up. George McClellan actually showed up. General McClellan showed up.
Yeah.
And rival of Tweed's turned friend, August Belmont, showed up.
He hates
and Jim
Dracula.
Fisk. Jim Fisk showed up, who said that he had always been a Republican, but he was switching parties, and he is going to vote the Tammany ticket the whole time. And it brought the House down. Jim Fisk's speech did. It looked like they were just riding this huge wave of just untouchable success, because at every point they could just pull a wire and, you know, whoever that wanted their power was gone, you know, or they were back where they were all of a sudden, you know, things like this. They also did good things. They you know, a lot of things got built that you look at New York and you go, wow, that's a beautiful building from the, you know, 19th century. It's like, well, it was probably built this way. They also railed against British injustice in Ireland and Spanish injustice in Cuba. So, like,
I support
some of
that.
their
Politically
ideas,
active.
yeah, some of their ideas are actually forward thinking. You know, when being progressive at this time meant something a little different than it means now. It means like monetarily progressive in like a Chet Arthur way. Because remember, Chet Arthur would end all of this. It wouldn't happen anymore, basically, like out in the open. And Chet was like one of the guys that like rose to the top on all this, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
it's
also
like
said
Climbed to the top of the ladder,
and they
and then
pulled
he
up with
looked
him.
down, and he got afraid of heights. Let's just
smashed the ladder.
Yeah.
He became president.
Yeah.
He also signed the Chinese Exclusion Act. But yeah, so basically, it was this point where they were huge and untouchable, and there were people that wanted and needed this all to fall. And that was the newspapers that were not friendly to Tweed, because they all knew that if Tweed just bought controlling shares in the newspapers, then they would be out of business. You know, they'd all just be fired, right? And Tilden, of course, because he had his own ambitions, right? So all of these people are like unlikely friends, but they would end up joining forces. And that
The good guys.
is where we're going to leave you for part 3, the
Oh, boy.
downfall of Boss Tweed.
Oh no.
I feel like the chess pieces have been set
Yeah.
for the final thing.
Well, he's flying high now, you know.
Yeah.
So
Scams working.
good for him. The scam is, yeah, you know. I like how corruption brought unlikely friends together.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
all their, you know, they're like, we can be friends over our mutual love of, you know, skimming off the top.
Yeah.
I admire a schemester, because I feel like a schemester or a group of schemesters, they put together a scheme, an Ocean's 11 style scenario. I don't have the patience, nor do I have the intelligence to make that happen. I'm like,
it's
I
kind
need a
of
big
amazing.
guy with a brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing what they were able to put together. Like,
You gotta have a special kind of ambition to be a guy like
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
it's like a beautiful plan in like a, you know, in that sort
in a
of
sinister way. Yeah.
in a sinister way. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I would like to think that, you know, they're standing on the shoulders of giants
Oh yes.
of corruption.
Well, and that's something that Tweed would say later, is that, like, you know, there wasn't a time in my life where the alderman couldn't be bought. Like, I don't understand, like, why am I being singled out here? And it's like, well, because you kind of like took the whole city and made it that way, you know.
Yeah.
It reminds me of
profiting off of it, you know.
the line from Hamilton: "Corruption such as an old song that we can all sing along in harmony, and nowhere is it stronger than in Albany."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one newspaper man who claimed to like walk in on Tweed like paying a bunch of Republicans, and he like instantly claimed to be paid off as well.
Yeah.
And like some would like come back and be like, "We need more."
They're
You
like,
know?
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, we're giving out money. You want some?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Hey, if you're offering.
Yeah.
yeah."
And it seems like there's a pretty distinct lack of people being like, where's it coming from and what happens when it runs out?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the real problem here.
Well, it looked like,
I mean, isn't the whole New York mentality though just forget about it?
Yeah.
Yep. I've heard that. I've seen it in the films.
They would have probably talked a lot more like Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York, or Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse.
I like that movie.
Eastern accent.
You goddamn farts.
And you farts. Oh, I love that movie. I was before the show, I was planning as a joke to call it Tamarind Hall. And then I forgot what I was going to call it, so that's why I called it Turmeric Hall.
I'm surprised, knowing your track record, that you didn't call it tuberculosis. Oh, the consumption hall.
Yeah, because then it's just consumption hall.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people are, well, that doesn't make sense. I feel like tamarind makes more sense than turmeric, but it was I skipped a step and just called it Turmeric Hall.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody, that was our show. Thank you for listening. I am Christopher Whedon, and still and always, much like my friend Zach, will always be a history boy.
Indeed.
And I am Zach Meck. I am also a history boy.
You're goddamn right.
Woohoo.
Yeah. It's good to
Repping
be
us
back.
over in Europe.
It's good to have you back.
My favorite country of Europe.
Even if it is only for a short time, Zach.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good to have you back. I am Tyler Armentrout. I'm a history boy, and I loved making this episode, and if you loved listening to it, you can let us know a variety of ways. You can either give us a 5-star review on the Apple Podcasts or the Spotify. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you're one of those 5 crazies.
There's like 60 some, Tyler. Let's be nice to the YouTube
then
people.
there's 55 normal ones and like 5
They could watch
crazies.
and
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm right there with you. If you really, really, really love the show, feel free to give us as little as $1 a month on the Patreon. You can give us $1 a month. You get access to the Discord. You can give us $5 a month, and you get 30-day access to every new episode of the HistoryBoiz Presents the Tyler Armentrout Project featuring Christopher Whedon, where we revisit old episodes, super hangout, chill vibes, more HistoryBoiz cool content. You can give us $10. You get access to the vault and a bunch of other content forever in perpetuity. Also, the $5 gets you a shout out. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else you guys could do to tell us that you love us besides just maybe sending us an email at historyboyspodcast@gmail.com.
You can do that.
Know what
You
you
can
like
also
about the show,
just-
what you don't like about the show.
You can also just keep listening. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just keep
That's
listening.
the big
Tell
one.
your friends. Get your friends involved. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just you can be
Tell your
yourself and
grandma.
listen to the show.
You know?
Yeah. Show the show to your grandma. See what she thinks.
You
Yeah.
go to your grandma's house. You ask to see her iPhone. She doesn't have an iPhone. You take her to get an iPhone or an Android device. Doesn't matter as long as it has apps. You get it there. You download every podcast app. You subscribe on each of them in her name. And then you repeat the process with every member of your family.
Yeah.
Especially
and you'll
your
know
grandma.
when you're done, okay?
You can
I don't need to tell you.
You can sign her up to the Patreon, you know?
Yeah.
She won't
there you
know.
go. Yeah, we'll bleed your grandma dry.
We're just skimming from the top, okay?
We're just skimming from the top.
Maybe
We're
don't
taking-
do that.
No, don't do that.
This whole History
You gotta
Boys
put
thing
money
is a
in her
way.
account. If she's paying us,
You
you
gotta
gotta
launder it.
pay her back, okay?
Launder it
You
through
gotta-
your grandma.
Yeah, the History Boys is just a big scheme to rip off the elderly.
Yeah, finally.
Someone's got to make her whole again. It's not going to be us. It's got to be you.
Yeah.
I'm saying it mostly out of legal obligation, okay? I'm not going to lie, but still, let's be honest here.
And I am Jerry Nash. Thank you again so much for listening to the show. Do all those things if you really want to help us, but don't forget that the most important thing you can do is listen to the show, and we love each and every one of our listeners so much. Mr. Zach Mack.
Love you, bye!
All right.
We've had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't.